Peter Drucker has once said that culture eats strategy for breakfast. Culture indeed is often neglected because it is intangible to control easily, and it is the plasma that nourishes the health of an organization, and it is not so straightforward to direct it from the top or to put metrics that can give clear indication about the level of positivity that exists within a particular culture. It is the hidden aspects, the 90% of the iceberg phenomenon that people do not see. Whether it's a change program and an initiative that leads to growth and the achievement of performance, and whether it is to do with strategy and its execution manner, whether it's to do with trying to put the seeds of innovation in order to deliver major leaps in performance and mesmerize the customer with superior value. All of these desires and wishes are on the agenda of every chief executive officer. However, what has been found to make a difference significantly is the soft aspect of the organization, something I refer to as culture. So rather than describe culture in a more sophisticated way, it is sufficient to say that it is the values and the way a business does things on an everyday basis, the visible and transparent behaviors, and as often quoted, the unwritten rules. One model which is very useful, which is all-encompassing about what a sophisticated culture of a modern organization entails, is one developed by A.T Kearney. At the core, the behaviors drive performance, they drive people's motivations, and they drive the purpose of an organization. The second layer are the attitudes and the feelings, and very often referred to as the emotional layer, the way people express themselves. Then there is the outer ring, which is more about the perceptions and the judgments, and the way the iceberg tip can be seen, which is the interpretation layer. This model is useful because it demonstrated perhaps how a culture of an organization can be hugged and, in a sense, can be managed effectively. On the left-hand side of the model are what has been referred to as the visible mechanisms, which are the formal organizational drivers, whether it's the strategy, the goals, and the cascade, whether it is the organizational culture and the roles and responsibilities of everyone and the job descriptions, whether it's the management systems, the rules, the procedures, and the governance processes, and whether it's the catalyst that motivates people in terms of rewards and recognitions. And on an extended level of this culture enhancement are the strategic partners, the suppliers, and so on and so forth. So the formal aspects of an organization demonstrate one aspect of the culture, which is referred to as the articulated layer. On the right-hand side of the model is the formal identity drivers, the difficult side of corporate culture, and that is the visible mechanisms, but the how they happen and why do they happen in a particular way is perhaps the difficult thing. So these characterize the formal identity of the organization, and also the formal identity through motion and behavior is referred to as the second articulated layer. So the articulated layer of the formal identity, the corporate identity, starts with mission statements, corporate values, the way leaders behave, and the way they exhibit role modeling, the way success stories are reported, and the environment itself, the work climate, the physical environment. And one aspect which perhaps is gaining more momentum is the moral compass of an organization in terms, for example, of caring for the environment and responding to people's interests outside the work environment, i.e. their volunteering activities in the community where they live, and being engaged in sports, in schools, volunteering in hospitals, in looking after the elderly, and so on and so forth. So this model is perhaps useful in the context of understanding how to drive a transformation program. But perhaps the way to ensure that a transformation program, insofar as leaders who are committed to making it successful are concerned, is not necessarily to look back and explain why change must happen and why the organization is intent on disrupting as opposed to fixing what the problems are. So the reactive approach to change is one where energy is dissipated, where the focus is on current state and trying to engage the human capital, trying to deal with resistance, trying to explain, to communicate, and give a lift to everybody so that they understand what the organization wants to do, and buy into the new should-be model of the organization, and then starting to move forward through buy-in and acceptance and contributions. 2/3 of the time in this approach tends to be wasted and the energy dissipated and the momentum not significant and not fast enough for what needs to be achieved. And unfortunately, most of the change programs are led in this way. In the context of the transformation program, an alternative model which is suggested is that management focus on positive drivers of change, the enablers of change and the impactors of change. In other words, creating the vision for transformational change, communicating it as an exciting journey for building the future, ensuring that the new skills are abundantly available and the momentum is further enriched, for example, to support the drivability of excellence in building fast maturity levels. A significant focus must be on capacity and capability and facilitating the climate for giving big leaps in performance and achieving quick results, and investing in the know-how through leveraging and through building core skills and competencies in order to sustain the momentum of disruptive change. This approach does not lose any momentum, can allow top management to accelerate the pace because it's all proactively driven. It's all by engaging the positive aspects of the organization, and it's all about disruptive, in some instances even by phasing out the areas that are resisting or the areas that might be hampering the significant progress that is desired. So the buy-in is the first thing that top management do, the engagement and the ownership at the local level, the education and best practice transfer in order to create commitment, the mentorship and the guidance and the support on the ground, the heavy investment on knowledge and skills, the availability of know-how in terms of knowledge products, in terms of toolkits, in terms of transferable skills and so on, and the external perspective about aspirations and learning from the best, and putting innovation as the desirable control mechanism for giving the big leaps and phasing out incremental improvements and problem solving for fixing existing problems that don't give the additional mileage, but rather use innovation at the core in order to move forward and maintain the pace through accelerated momentum.